Good evening and welcome to the October 23rd meeting of the Falmouth Conservation Commission. This meeting is being held virtually via Zoom video conference and is also being broadcast by FCTV on cable channel 9. As this meeting is being recorded by Zoom and broadcast by FCTV, please be cognizant of what you say and how you say it and what can be seen and heard in your background. We're missing one commissioner tonight. However, we have a quorum. We're moving forward. Just a reminder for commenting, I'll call on each of you in turn, and that votes are done by roll call. So when I call your name, please state your name and your vote for the record, even if you've made the motion or the second. To our public attendees, at any time during this meeting, you may enter any comments or questions via the chat function. At the appropriate time, they will be read into the record. If you'd like to participate in a specific hearing, let us know via the chat function. Then at the appropriate time, I will call for public comment. When you are selected, you'll be moved into the hearing as a participant. As such, you must have your video enabled, be succinct and respectful of others. Public comments will be limited to 3 minutes each. Regarding RDAs, under a request for determination of applicability, the applicant is asking the Commission to determine if the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and/or the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw apply to their proposed project. A negative determination is that the provisions of the Act and/or the bylaw do not apply. Therefore, the project may proceed as proposed. A positive determination means the provisions of the Act and/or the bylaw do in fact apply and/or may require some conditions. Therefore, the project may require a notice of intent application. So as an applicant, you kind of want to hear a negative answer. And for the benefit of anyone waiting for a particular hearing tonight, and so that you're not waiting unnecessarily, the following hearing is expected to be continued, and that is 96 Waterside Drive. All right, first up is said request for continuance under notice of intent. Frank Siaka, 96 Waterside Drive, North Falmouth, Mass. For permission to remove an unpermitted patio, construct a deck, install a fence, install mitigation and restoration plantings, and to request a variance from FWR 10.38 -4-F-4 Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting a continuance until November 6th.
So move.
Driscoll second.
All right, this is multiple continuances. There are valid reasons for this?
They're still working on their planting plan.
Okay. And the other thing is pay attention, Courtney and Steve, please. If you guys could read up on this, it would be helpful under the Mullen rule so that we don't have quorum issues when it does come to pass. Because there's three, Maury's not here, that's why I didn't bring her up. There's three that are not on this quorum. So we want to make sure when it is heard, we're okay with quorum wise. So if you guys wouldn't mind looking into that.
So right now, we're not technically on the quorum.
Correct.
Yeah.
I will send you links and times to the hearings on YouTube, and I'll have Lori send those, find the time of the hearing, send that to you both, as well as the minutes.
Sounds like a plan. Thank you.
All right. So Courtney, you weren't on any of them. So it's more important you look at it. Steve, you missed one, so you're probably a little bit familiar with this project. But again, if you guys could come up to speed, that would be helpful and I'd appreciate it. So we have a motion and a second to continue this until 11/6, I believe you said.
Yes.
All right, we're voting on the continuance. Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney.
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin.
O'Brien, aye.
Ron.
Driscoll, aye.
Steve.
And
It is unanimous. We have continued this until 11/6.
Jamie,
Yes.
I'm definitely not going to be at that meeting.
Okay. So,
So you're gonna need somebody else to fill in,
Okay.
oh, you know what?
Steve or Courtney.
Um, yeah, I'm not gonna be there either. Bear with me.
Maybe we need to
November
continue it to a
6th.
different night.
Hold on.
November 6th.
Yes, November 6th. So,
And
I
I
know we
won't be
just-
here either, sorry. That's Ron. I won't be here either. I just realized that. November 6th.
all right, so, Jen, I think procedurally we need to withdraw our past vote and give them a different date.
November 3rd. Yeah. So withdraw that and we'll
Okay.
continue it till November 13th.
Okay, can somebody make a motion in a second to withdraw that last vote?
O'Brien, make a motion to move this to November, what, 13th? What was the date?
Yeah, but you have
November
to,
13th, correct.
Okay,
Bird second.
okay, so we have a motion and a second to change that date from 11/6 to 11/13. Everybody clear on that?
Yes.
We're gonna vote again just to make it official, all right? So again, this is to continue it to 11/13. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye, Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Ron,
Driscoll, aye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
Thank you.
Mr.
Sorry about that
Mr. Chair.
confusion. Yes, sir.
I ask a question. It sounds like a number of people are not gonna be able to be present for the November 6th meeting. Is that gonna be problematic?
Courtney, let me figure something out. So I'm not gonna have Jamie, I'm not gonna have Betsy, I'm not gonna have Ron, I'm not gonna have Steve. You said you're not gonna be here?
I did
No.
not say,
All right, I'm sorry, Steve. Did somebody else say something?
Is Maury here?
So
That's what
Jamie,
I'm wondering.
Betsy, and Ron.
It's on the calendar. I don't know.
Jamie, Betsy, and Ron. We're gonna have to look, remind me of that tomorrow. We'll look tomorrow. We'll look tomorrow, figure it out.
Yeah, we're just gonna have to
Okay.
pay attention tonight to whatever we continue.
Yep.
And
Well,
then
I'm not continuing it to the
ask the rest of you to make sure you do, in fact, make it. Courtney will be chair, so it'll be a fun night had by all.
Oh, boy.
All right, next up, request for a continuance under an enforcement order. Joshua O'Brien and Melissa Mayo O'Brien, 22 Deer Pond Road, East Falmouth, Mass. Unpermitted installation of a dock, construction of a shed and patio, and associated clearing. Jen, I
Yes,
think.
Mr. This matter is going to be continued until November 13th.
Is there
So
a
moved.
reason? Second, is there a reason?
We're
We
in
got the,
receipt of the plan. We just need to review it a little more in depth, and we can already tell there are a few changes that need to be made. So we'll give the engineer a little bit more time.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, good. All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this to 11/13. We're voting. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye, Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Ron,
Driscoll, aye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have continued this to 11/13. Next up, our request for determination of applicability. Christina Gentile, 39 Davis Neck Road, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to vista prune according to FWR 10.18 10B. Mrs. Bergeron.
The applicant has requested a continuance until October 30th.
So move.
Driscoll,
Pat
second.
second.
All right, we have a motion and multiple seconds to continue this until 10:30. Questions or comments? We're voting. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye, Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Ron,
Driscoll, aye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until 10:30. Next up, this confuses me. Request for a continuance for determination of applicability. If this is a continued RDA, or was this actually a request for a continuance that should have been at the beginning of the agenda? That's what's confusing me. Anyway, first up, Ann and Ed Stern, 449 Sepoyset Road, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to pump, fill, and abandon the existing leaching pit and to install a new Title V sewage disposal system. Ms. Bergeron.
The applicant has withdrawn the request. They'll be filing a notice of intent.
All
We
righty,
need to take no action.
no action. All right.
Courtney's practicing.
All right, next up, hearings under notice of intent. All hearings of the Falmouth Conservation Commission are held simultaneously under the authorities of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw. Although a single decision of the commission is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. As a reminder, public commenting is limited to 3 minutes, so I encourage you to stay within the purview of this board, which are the rules and regulations of the Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw, and how they pertain to a particular application. The chair reserves the right to stop any commenting that is disparaging or inconsequential to the hearing. First up, Greg House, 74 Pequasset Avenue, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to replace pilings and reconstruct an existing licensed dock and renovate an existing boathouse. Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Mike Borselli has been promoted to a panelist to present his project. Good evening, Mike.
Excellent.
Good evening.
Mr. Borselli, you're up, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Mike Borselli, Falmouth Engineering, and I represent the applicant. One of the property owners, Molly Kimmerer, is probably in the audience. She doesn't need to be impaneled unless there's a specific issue that she would need to comment on, but she should be available, I think. But I don't know that she'll be necessary. I'm here tonight. I filed a notice of intent to reconstruct an existing licensed dock at number 74 Pequasset Ave. With your permission, I'd like to share my screen.
Yes, sir.
Just for reference, I'm showing you the town GIS map with the lot highlighted in green. If I zoom back, over here is the Megansett Harbor. As you make your approach to, the town landing at County Road is right here. The Megansett Yacht Club, and as you make your way into the upper reaches of Megansett Harbor, it transitions into Squatigue Harbor. Right in the town of Bourne, town of Falmouth town line is basically in this location. The property at number 74 Pequasset Avenue has a single-family dwelling, driveway, upland, yard areas, and landscape. I'm not going to share my plan with you to show you some more details on the property. I'm going to start out to the west where Megansett Harbor and Squatigue Harbor are located. This is land containing shellfish and land under the ocean. There is a coastal beach. There's a coastal bank, which is identified on the plan. Top of coastal bank is shown. The existing house you can see is at the top of the coastal bank. There's a long access stairway from the top of the bank down to the beach. If anyone walked down that stairway, you are very aware of how long and steep it is. It leads to a boardwalk that leads to the dock structure in question. There is an existing 4-foot wide timber walkway that leads out to a pier, fixed pier platform. And on that platform sits an existing boathouse. This structure was licensed in the late 1920s. It received the benefit of a Chapter 91 license, which I attached to the application. I'm also going to share with you a vintage photograph to give you a sense of what the structure is. You can see I'm hoping you can see this.
Yes.
this is the end, this is the fixed platform. And this boathouse sits on top of it, and the seaward face of it is the actual pier where you can see there's a sailboat tied to it back. This is vintage 1930. So it's been that this was when it was freshly built or newly built, a year or two old, and it's time to fix it. It was sort of patched and band-aided and duct taped and sort of held together through the years, but it's time to rebuild it now. So we're here to gain permission to rebuild this in its same width, alignment, in size. There is an existing, on page 2, there is a profile view from the upland that shows the walkway leading out to the boathouse with the pier on the seaward face. There's typical cross sections. There's a plan view of the platform. All of the material sizes and dimensions are shown on the plan, hand railings. The original or the current dock and walkway has significantly more posts. There are a series of 6x6 posts that are much closer together. They're on the order of 8 feet, I believe, plus or minus. So there's many more posts supporting this than what we're proposing. We've increased the span, and we're proposing typical timber pilings, 16 feet on center, spaced out on the walkway. And then we're replicating the same pile system that exists today on the main platform. And that's outlined on this blow-up view detail. You can see the pilings, and here's a typical cross-section of that outer part with cross bracings and all of the stringers, etc., that will support not only the dock but the boathouse. The boathouse needs to be re-roofed and re-sided. Of course, we can't fix the dock with the boathouse on the dock. So what is proposed is that a contractor familiar with house moving will work with the marine contractor. They will secure the boathouse, brace it to keep it from racking and twisting. It will be hoisted off very carefully and placed on a barge right next to the work area. The dock would be rebuilt, and then the boathouse will be hoisted back onto the dock in the same place. The piles are proposed to be driven, not jetted. We certainly understand the need to work with tides, and barge will float at all tides. And I think that sums it up. I am happy to take questions.
Thanks, Mike. Jen,
A couple of things. Mike, the barge has to be spudded down. It's not actually floating. We know that. So
Well, it has to be spudded into position and
yeah,
held in
it's
place.
not floating. It's
Oh,
you've
well.
got them in the ground. So let's just say it like it is. And they'll float that thing in it. Obviously, they'll get that barge in there during high tide.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're gonna have to, aren't they?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Don't really have concerns with the reconstruction of the boathouse. We do have some concerns about just some activities on the property over the years. Just looking back at a series of aerial photos, which Alyssa's attached to your staff report, it does seem like the beach grass is being managed on kind of like the north side of the property. Sometimes the beach grass is there, sometimes it's not really sure what's going on, but the beach grass should not be removed by hand machine. If it's naturally doing that, that's fine, but it doesn't particularly appear to be. So we do have some concerns with that. So we'll make some notes in the conditions that the property should be, beach grass should be left alone. The storage of boats on the beach grass Would like to see those boats stored somewhere else, maybe attaching it to the side of the boathouse if we are reconstructing the dock, adding some racks on the dock to store the kayaks would be best. And unfortunately, it appears that a 2011 RDA for some thinning of some trees was taken a bit too far, and the trees were removed from that bank. The bank is currently being managed. I would like to see that bank just be allowed to grow into its full and mature form. And that's all, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Ms. Bergeron.
Nothing to add. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner comments or questions? Betsy.
No questions or comments. Thanks.
All right. Courtney.
No questions or comments.
Okay. Nice project. Like to see that boathouse when it's done.
Mhm.
Kevin.
No questions, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right. Ron.
And Mike, nice presentation, and I'm also like to see that boathouse. Like to see that moved up and down, put on a barge. It'd be interesting.
We'll be
Thank you.
taking
That's all.
pictures.
Send me a letter, send me a note.
Well, we can submit some emailed photos during construction.
Thank you.
We'll
That'd
come
be
and
great.
we'll come and supervise. Don't mind.
Sure.
All right. Steve.
Yeah, it's quite a workout. So, if I could do that once a week, up and down,
Oh, yeah, that's still something.
I tried to do it 2 steps at a time. Anyway, beautiful property. I'm glad, we're working out their other issues. Alyssa's notes seem to be a little more severe. So I'm glad we can compromise and make sure they manage it properly. But it's a beautiful site. Is there any other boathouses like that around? I'm
No.
sorry to go off, Mr. Chairman.
Not to my knowledge.
Thank you.
Oh, it is interesting. And Mike, you said the Chapter 91 was issued in the 20s or 30s?
I think it was 1927,
When did they start issuing Chapter 91s? Anybody know?
1868.
Really?
You're a wealth of knowledge.
There's actually a dock in Yarmouth that has a Chapter 91 license from like the 1880s or something like that.
Wow.
All right.
But
Would you
you
say
can put
by
that in the order.
1868?
We'll put that in the order of conditions we have to
Right.
observe.
Right. All right. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Nothing in the public chat, Mr. Chairman. We're just, again, we're just gonna add some language about the vegetation. So we're clear.
So I'll make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Bird second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Last call, questions or comments? All right. We're voting to close the hearing. Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney.
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin.
O'Brien, aye.
Ron.
Driscoll, aye.
Steve. Steve.
I'm sorry, Pat and I?
Thank
Is my
you.
speaker working? Yes.
Could be my speaker's not working. All right, it is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Mike.
Great. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Have a good one, Mike.
Night, Mike.
Good night.
Next up, Janice K. Lewis, 76 Hamlin Avenue, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to conduct invasive species management and restoration. Remove a boardwalk, concrete wall, and hardscape. Construct walkways, a block wall, and steps, and install dry wells. Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I promoted Tom Bunker up from VSS Design and Angela Tanner up from Crawford Land Management. And
Excellent.
to present their project.
All right, Mr. Bunker, you're up,
Great.
sir.
Thank you. Yes, for the record, my name is Tom Bunker with BSS Design. We did the surveying for this project and prepared the base plan to hand over to Angela to do their magic for restoration. If I will share my screen just with a little bit of,
Okay.
hold on,
Holding.
holding, please. There it is. Okay. Having trouble finding the share button. And then I have to find the plan. There it is. Okay, so this is the plan on Hamlin Ave, number 76 Hamlin Ave here, and it's on the properties on the west side of Hamlin Ave, and it goes back to Weeks Pond, which is over here, a freshwater body. It's in flood zone X, shaded X. There's no coastal bank. There's an inland bank. It was noted in the staff report to identify or label the inland bank, and I think I got stopped mid-typing because there's edge upon inland, and I meant to write bank here. So that's the inland bank. I have to fix my skills. So on this plan, I have shown everything that Angela, that Crawford Land Management has proposed to remove, which is most of the hardscape around here. Is a patio, brick walks. This is a wooden walk here, other flagstones, some steps down the bank, concrete patio down here, a concrete wall along this side, other steps and stones. Actually, this goes further down, but it wasn't drawn all, but that's going to be removed. And some other concrete posts, whatever other legacy items are back in the woods. Back in this, it's all full of a lot of honeysuckle and Japanese knotweed in this plan. So I have a compilation of what's being removed here, 371 square feet of impervious surfaces in zone A and 202 square feet in zone B. I can go here. I'll try to move gently to not cause nausea.
We appreciate that.
Thank you. So in general, I'll say that that patio here is being replaced by flagstones, so it's less coverage. The flagstone walks here instead of the wooden coverage. Added a gravel strip along here. Some paths, one along the property and one against the house, just to basically for maintenance, not for travel. The travel down the bank would be this way, down some steps with access to the area under the porch, which was and is crushed stone gravel. This area, which is now patio, it will be grasses and perennials where it's not under the porch above or the deck above. And all of the green that's all of the shrub and tree planting where all the invasive will be removed. Also under here, there's some infiltrators, the quick for low profile leaching chambers under what's now the gravel area, and that's being put under also what will be under what's now the patio, and the line isn't on there, but these are to be connected to the two downspouts, one here and one here at these corners of the house. And then the area compilation, there's 371 square feet being removed in zone B, 298 square feet, zone A, 298 square feet being put back of all the individual flagstones. So there's a reduction in coverage in zone A. And then in the zone B, there's 202 square feet being removed, and with these other stones going down the bank, 168 square feet. So there's a reduction in coverage in zone B also. So for that brief summary, I'll take this down, and Angela, unless there are any direct questions about this, but I'll take this down, and then Angela can put up her get in her plan and get into more detail on that.
Thanks, Tom.
Hello, I'm Angela Tanner, for the record, from Genic Studio, Crawford Land Management, and with your permission, I don't know. I just got a new computer, and for some reason it doesn't let me share my screen. Let me see if I can get it to work though.
I can pull it up if you want me to.
Yeah, I think so. It's asking me to restart Zoom, so I'll have to get this resolved for the next one. Yeah, could you share yours, please?
Sure, yeah. Hold on one second again. I'll share it and mitigation plan. Oh, wrong one.
Hey, stop.
Worse narrative. That should be it there. Mitigation plan. Yeah, that is it there. Okay. So you just have to tell me what you want, how you want me to move it around.
Okay.
You're not sharing, Tom.
Uh-oh, I was. I guess I unshared, but now it should be. How's that?
There you go.
Okay,
Thank you.
There you go.
that's perfect. So, as Tom mentioned, we reduced the total hardscape. Basically, the main goal of this project, the homeowners are concerned about the slope on the pond and stabilizing it, making sure that they control erosion as much as possible. They also really love native plants, and so we are planning all of these green areas in the front are areas that we would like to incorporate more plantings, more native plantings. So the whole goal of this was really just to help with the erosion and incorporate more native plants. And so by removing the invasive plantings and replacing those with natives, we're accomplishing a lot. One thing that was in the questions I know from staff was this downspout over here. It does say it's connected to, it would be connected to a dry well. And I think, or it says infiltration chambers. Yeah, we just don't have a line shown there, but the goal is to connect that also to the system that's down there, if that is feasible. We are removing a lot of pavement up here and replacing it with planting. So already that's going to alleviate a lot of potential issues that we have over there. But the goal is to try to get more of this going into the chambers rather than right now. They're just sort of going in random directions. I think one of them might even be going towards the other adjacent property. So that was the goal, was to get as much of the drainage as possible into the infiltration chambers, remove these invasive plants. And I think the staff had also questioned what this restoration area square footage is. We can certainly add that onto the plan. It is 1,458 square feet, the green area. So that's not including these pathways, maintenance pathways, and the stair access. That works out to around 5.5 feet spacing on average for the shrubs. Plus we have some additional new trees going down there. And we also, I don't remember if Tom, did you mention rebuilding this wall here? This is the wall that's kind of falling down. Yeah, I'm pointing to it as if you can see my picture.
Right. This wall here. I can't remember if I mentioned it.
Yeah, that we're proposing to replace it. It's not a very tall wall, but it is holding up and making that under the porch area level. So we'd like to replace it with a masonry unit wall and interlocking system. It's not tall, so it won't require a footing. And so that's really the only kind of hardscape that we're planning there besides those steps. And then I think, I'm trying to remember if there's anything else. I think that pretty much sums up the landscape goals. I mean, we think this is just a huge improvement overall for the drainage, erosion control, wildlife habitat. And so we hope you do too.
All right. Thank you. Thanks, Tom. Jen,
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you for clarifying the square footage, Angela. It's just helpful because then we kind of figure out where you guys are going with your plans and everything. I like the plan. It's definitely the property needs some opening up. I mean, all the properties down there I feel are very vegetated. A couple of them down there, so
With the wrong stuff.
I was gonna say, isn't that a good
With
thing?
the wrong stuff.
It is,
You
but I
work for
mean, they
conservation?
almost seem like a little overgrown sometimes. I've gone Tom, a couple of your projects down there, and I'm just like this. Where is everything? So Tom, you're gonna put the label on your plan. Angela, Alyssa noticed like you had kind of the lower growing shrubs kind of clumped in an area. Is that kind of like a little built-in vista? And if it is,
Yeah.
that's fine. But can we just kind of label it on the plan, not maybe
We
an established?
We can. There are some existing trees in there too. There's an existing birch and a beech, but yeah, the idea was to sort of be able to look under those and still have like one kind of slot view through.
Yeah,
So we
no,
can
that's fine.
label that.
Yeah, that's all, just so we know what that area is supposed,
Mhm.
to be. And then the question, did you answer the question about
Oh.
the natives on the bank? Are they going to be regeneratively pruned? Are they going to be flush cut? Is it the same thing?
If there are a few smaller things there, it's a case by case basis. We're not going to cut everything to the ground, but if it's leggy and scraggly, then we certainly will.
Okay.
But the goal is to save anything native and get rid of the rest.
And then the mowing program you have, is that just a one-time thing? Is that an annual thing? And then how are you going to get around all the shrubs with the mowing?
Yeah, I think mowing might be the wrong word for that's a general note we usually have for maintenance so that we can go in and manage invasive grasses seasonally. So if we were to cut anything, it would be cut. I don't know that, you're not going to get a mower in there.
No.
And it would only be during the establishment period. It's just any of the seeding that we're putting in there while that's coming in, just to
All right,
have
so
the
it's
ability
during
if we need to.
establishment. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think the only other question we had was, quite honestly, if on that area where you have that seeded maintenance path, are those the chokeberries you have next to those? Do you have enough room over there for those chokeberries? It seemed kind of narrow in that area. And we were just questioning whether or not there was actually the room to put a chokeberry in there because they can get pretty big.
Well, the reason we usually use chokeberries on a property line is they tend to not get as wide as a lot of other stuff.
Okay.
I think they should be okay. I mean, the goal is really just like they don't want to plant anything right up next to the foundation so they can still sort of slip by there. But I don't think they're going to be using that path on a regular basis.
Yeah, I mean, we were just wondering if you wanted to just eliminate those altogether. I mean, well, obviously they're on your plan. If the applicant wants to put them there, that's fine. But we were questioning whether long-term they would be enough room. But okay, we're just questioning it.
There should be, and there's also room on the other side too. We wanted to keep a little bit of a buffer between the adjacent property
Yeah,
just
no, I get it.
to manage invasive stuff, but you know, there is a little wiggle room in there too. So I think they should
That's
be
all
all
I have,
right.
Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Bergeron,
Just one follow-up, Angela, for the proposed trees. I just couldn't really evaluate their location considering the steepness of the bank and how vegetated it currently is. So maybe once you guys are partially through your treatment, I can just scoot out there, maybe look at some stakes of where you were going to put them and just confirm they're not under some tree canopies. I know there's sort of a cluster of trees there, which could be nice for them, but I just want to make sure they have enough room to grow.
Okay, we can, when we add the other labels that needs to go on here, we can add a note that we can coordinate the locations, the final locations with staff on site.
Perfect. Thank you.
all right, commissioner comments and questions, Courtney.
No questions.
Angela, clarify for me, you made a statement about the average spacing would be 5.5 feet. Can you qualify that, please?
So so we know from past projects with you guys that the restoration areas, you like to have shrubs spaced an average of 5 to 6 feet on center. And so using the excuse me, calculator that you guys have with the number of shrubs we have, it works out to an average of 5.5. Some of them are further apart than that, and some of them are closer. So that's the average spacing.
Okay.
Is that what you're asking?
Well, I'm just looking for clarification, so there's no real wrong answer there, but just the average spacing is a little more than I'm used to seeing, so I wanted to ask that.
Well, it isn't a mitigation area. So, I mean, typically we would, since some of these shrubs get kind of big, we don't, you know, we try to give them a little more breathing room, especially around, and since there's some trees in there too.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And we are seeding the area and adding some spreading ground covers as well. So it's not completely unvegetated, but that was the goal. Basically 5 to 6 feet was what we were using as our benchmark.
Okay. Thank you. Kevin. Mr. O'Brien.
Oh, no questions, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Ron.
Yeah, I had a tree question too. There's just 2 or 3 small trees that are angling out over the water, right over the pond. They're right on the edge of the bank and the pond.
Yeah.
Is anything going to happen to them? Are they just going to remain, or are they getting cut? Or
If
how
those
long
are the
are they gonna
alders,
last?
if those are the alders, those are proposed to be removed because they're not native alders. And they're starting to seed in.
Okay.
There might be some other stuff in there, but I don't think there's anything big.
No, I think it's those alders
yeah.
that were in the center. They were going out
Yep.
over the pond,
Mm-hmm.
almost growing horizontally.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Steve.
No additional questions. Thank you.
Okay. Betsy.
It was a nice plan, nice project. Should look
Thank
good
you.
when it's done. Grown up a little.
All right. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Public chat regarding this project.
I'll make a motion, close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Bird second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Last call, questions or comments? All right, we're voting to close the hearing. Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney.
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin.
O'Brien, aye.
Ron.
Driscoll, aye.
Steve.
And I.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Angela.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Night.
All right, next up, Terrence and Margaret Forster, 37 Beckles Road, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to conduct invasive species management and restoration. Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I am promoting, Is it Stephen Lee, Melissa? Sorry, my mouse isn't working right now. I guess Ian Peach has their hand up, so I'm going to promote them to a panelist. Mr. Lee keeps.
Good evening.
Hello, Ian. You must be with Wilkinson. Sorry about that.
That's all
Am
right.
am I promoting Mr. Lee up as well, or no?
I think we'll just go with Lee for now. He's listening
Okay.
attentively.
Okay. Excellent. Well, welcome, sir.
Thank you. I usually have Ed behind my name just to help in that, but it dropped off this evening when I registered. So all good. So for the record, Ian Peach, Wilkinson Ecological Design, representing the applicant this evening. So I'll share my screen if everybody is ready.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. All right. So we are at 37 Beckles Road. This is a little bit of a context aerial to clue us in and where we are on the coast. This black dot shows the property. The project before you this evening, voluntary ecological restoration, and we're proposing 5,600 square feet of work comprehensively across the coastal bank, and a heavily invaded coastal bank. When we first visited the property and consulted with the homeowners, we came up with two primary goals. One, for the current degraded bank community on the coastal bank, and number two, increase biodiversity and pollinator benefit, the pollinator habitat benefit being provided by the resource areas on the property. So in short, increase the potential to have a connection and benefit to pollinators. So just to move us along here, we have an existing conditions property diagram that I wanted to highlight in photos. We have a red overlay where we have about a 90% invasive plant species density. This property is primarily blanketed, as you can see on this lower photo with the number 3, with porcelainberry, but also multiflora rose, Asiatic bittersweet, shrub honeysuckle, vine honeysuckle, olive, border privet, a lot of the typical listed invasive plants. And then we have this small pocket that is 50% invaded with invasive species in this orange overlay. And these photos kind of windows into what we're looking at. What these photos don't represent is a really unique part of the project, and that is through our thorough site analysis, we identified pockets where we see less typical plants than we usually do on a, and those are things like plants like jewelweed, highbush blueberry, and even ferns. And this is from our assessment likely from small little freshwater breakouts, which is really interesting because it gives us an opportunity with these indicator species to inform our planting design, and we can diversify and use shrubs, wonderful native shrubs like winterberry, red chokeberry, plethora, to name a few, intermixed with the maritime shrubs to get a greater diversity of shrubs and benefit for wildlife in our restoration. So we're excited from what we found on site with thorough site analysis. To achieve the goals, we've got a robust planting plan, 132 native shrubs are proposed on the coastal bank. And then I mentioned the hatch that is inland of the coastal bank, a former mitigation area. We really see a wonderful opportunity here to take a whole range, I think 15 different species of flowering herbaceous species, to kind of interstitch them in an already thriving and existing mitigation planting to bring in that herbaceous layer that's lacking now. It's just kind of shrubs in space. They're doing well, but we can even do better by bringing in this overlay of the native species, which will establish, you know, the nectar and pollen. We choose these species thinking about the arc of the season, right? So looking for things that are flowering across the season. So we're hitting the early season, the mid-season, the late season for pollinators. We're looking for diversity of structure, diversity of flower morphology to attract these different kind of pollinators. And we're also looking to link host plant species or plant species that are hosts for pollinators. So that was an important part of the project. There's that uplift of the mitigation area and the restoration of the coastal bank. The unique condition of the beach, besides the little freshwater breakouts that allow us to expand our planting, is that it's a very rocky, slabby bank from the base and right up. And we've done our best, as you can see in these graphics, to try to represent it, and even have done our best to carefully get a square footage takeoff. You can see on number 3 down here, and I climbed in under that curtain of vegetation, and it just keeps going. So we've had to really do our best to try to make sure we're getting a robust planting, but understanding that existing conditions are stony and rocky and bouldery on a large portion of the lower bank. But let me really quickly jump to some staff comments just to clarify a few things. There was a question, I think, about that we addressed the state regulations in the narrative, but not the local regulations. If you look at our NOI package narrative, page 15 and 16 is the state, and 17 and 18 are the Falmouth regulations. So they should be in the package there. We have already, as you can see, jumped right on adding the NHESP line to our plan and written the revision there already on the plan. And we've also corrected the Carolina Rose, which was incorrectly or confusingly Carolina, Virginia cross up. So we've got that corrected on our spec and the NHESP line on the plan and the revision already put in. So appreciate your feedback on that. And then we get to our proposed method of managing that invasive debris. We had communicated with staff in office hours, and we were advised that the burning of the invasive plants was going to be acceptable as long as we followed the proper procedures, permissions with the local fire department. So that was the feedback we got. The reason we're in this position is we are extremely limited in a very unique way, and you can see on this property, to get anything, even its dingo size equipment. And as we've looked at this really closely on this western side, it's the gas line area. So there's some infrastructure there that really isn't shiftable easily without crossing off the property line. And so we've assessed some of the options that were brought up about getting permission from other properties, but simply put, our primary proposal would be definitely to burn on the coastal beach above mean high water with a complete cleanup of all the ash and remnants, as we discussed in office hours, and also do it outside of mapped NHESP habitat. So that would be the ideal. We realize we're still waiting on the NHESP letter. And so we're going to, we haven't asked this of them before. So it's kind of, I think, a curiosity to see how they would weigh in. We do have a plan B because our location right now is shown within that habitat. We do have another area that is out of the high water line and out of NHESP as kind of a plan B. And then plan C would be to find a way, be more laborious, challenging, and a little risky to try to figure out a way to make this project succeed in implementation by passing along the western side. So I know that was a little long-winded, but that's kind of the trickiest part of the project is just that tight access. So I think those are the staff notes. Wanted to speak to that, and happy to, I'll stop sharing and we can call anything up as helpful, and appreciate your time.
Excellent. Thank you, Ian. Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So we will have to continue it to get Natural Heritage's feedback Particularly, I'm just interested to see if they have any concerns on the burning part of it.
Yeah.
And then Ian, your client controls that property, correct? There's no back property line there? I
Correct.
do know along some of these properties over there, there is Salt Pond Area Bird Sanctuaries land, so you're saying that you own to the mean
Yes.
of water. Okay. All right. I just want to make sure that we're not burning on somebody else's property. And if they do not approve it, again, you have that association property, you just have to cross one property. I think you're just one property over. Have you approached the association at all about using their property or no?
We haven't. There's a couple things. We thought accessing from that footpath, there are some one area we looked at, we'd have to remove concrete pillars and there would be tracking over wooden stairs and 200 linear feet on natural heritage habitat. So we're worried about the disturbance of that. And the second footpath at 19 Beckles, just 650 linear feet across NHESP, I think we looked at, and we'd have to cross below mean high water at low tide.
Okay.
Well, that's why kind of the preference is burning in one of two locations. If that's not plausible or possible from your board or NHESP, we would probably try to make it work with that on property access. Yeah.
And the switching of the plans, did you go with the Carolina or the Virginia? I missed that.
We went with the Carolina. Sorry if that was confusing.
It's okay. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Ian.
Ms. Bergeron.
No comments. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner comments and questions. I'll start. I think it's a good looking project. The burning is a potential issue. So sound like you have that plan A, B, C, and D worked out. And just to reiterate, you mentioned that you're going to need permission locally from the fire department, depending on, well, you're probably going to need it anyway, but depending on time of year and all that. So just so that's been said. Ron.
Yeah, it was a great piece of property. I noticed there's a pile of trash and debris out by the 50% invasive and 90% invasive. That looks like it's been there a while. That should be removed.
Yeah, thank you for the heads up.
That's it. Thank you.
Okay. Kevin, I skipped over you. Nothing personal, buddy.
No problem. No questions, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Steve.
Thank you. And the last project was heavily covered with growth. I think this exceeds that by a great deal. And it's a great property. I have no other questions. Good luck with the disposal. It's important that we not drag that stuff all around.
Right.
Thank you.
All right. Betsy.
No questions. Nice presentation, Ian.
Courtney.
A couple of things. There's a particularly nasty set of varieties of invasives on that bank that are quite stubborn and are going to resist burning. And burning is a good way to get rid of the brush. But what follow-up do you have? Are you going to treat the roots and all of that with herbicide, or are you relying only on burning? Because if you rely on burning, all that nice ash will just act like fertilizer.
Yeah, good question. Thank you. It'll be a combination approach. Herbicide is used very targeted cut and wipe method on the species, stabilizing the bank while the roots desiccate. It's the top of the vegetation that's being burned, but the actual living plant will be treated based.
Yeah, okay. You didn't make that clear in the presentation.
No.
The second thing is, given the fact that, as your pictures show, most of the houses along that whole section are faced with the same problems of invasives as you are. Did you
True.
approach the other landowners and try to do this as a group project?
Interesting question. We've seen what often happens actually is one neighbor takes on this type of restoration, and you probably have seen this as well, and others kind of pick their head up and say, oh wow, we did walk down that road a little bit and understood from the homeowner that that there wasn't necessarily willingness right now, and so obviously we're focused on the one parcel. But truthfully, on many other parts of the Cape and Islands, I've worked on projects that begin with one and then grow because people see the good work and the benefit.
Yeah, I mean, I'm privy to a project actually Seth worked on years ago with Palanton, Chris Politan,
Yeah,
to control Phragmites in Little Sequoia Marsh. And there were 13 homeowners who got together, and it's still a good project. And it seems to me that a project like this is just begging for cooperation with the neighbors, but you also have to work with what you have. No other questions.
It's a good start, though. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Nothing in the public chat, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Ian, you have a request for us?
in terms of date, is that what you're?
It's going to be
Well-
the 13th, Ian, because this
Oh, right.
you're not going to have a quorum any sooner than that. So it'll be November 13th would be the first available date we could continue you to.
Great. And I believe we potentially have in November 8th, as if that would be the limit of the 30 days for natural heritage. So that makes sense.
Well,
We like
also, we
that.
don't have a quorum on the 6th, though.
Oh,
We can't put you on the 6th.
Need that too.
When everybody found out I was going to chair the meeting, they suddenly changed their plans and
At the
left.
request of the applicant, I'll make a motion to continue this till 13th of November.
Third, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this hearing until November 13th. Last call, questions or comments? All right, we're voting on the continuance. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Ron,
Driscoll,
Steve?
No,
It is unanimous. We have continued this until November 13th. Thank you, Mr. Peach.
Thank you, everyone. Have a nice evening.
Thank you.
Aye.
thank you for your presentation, Ian.
All right, next up, continued request for hearing under notice of intent. Michael Smith and Yvonne Chong, 4 Whittemore Avenue, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to upgrade an existing sewage disposal system, construct a second floor addition, and install restoration plantings. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'm promoting Mark Dibb from Cape and Islands Engineering to present his project. Hello, Mark.
All right, and Mark, before you begin, Alyssa, I have the quorum as all of us because it had not been previously open. All right, Mr. Dibb, you're up, sir. Good evening.
Good evening again. For the record, Mark Dibb with Cape and Islands Engineering, representing the applicant for 4 Whittemore Ave, Mike Smith and Yvonne Chung, for the proposal of an addition, second floor addition and septic upgrade. With your permission, I'd like to share my screen.
Yes, sir.
Let's get this. Okay, just go over the existing conditions and the proposal, and then go into a couple staff comments. So the existing property is located with Racing Beach Ave to the west, Buzzards Bay beyond that, Whittemore Ave, which is where the driveway comes off of, to the south, and a residential parcel to the north and the east. Resource areas on the site consist of Buzzards Bay, the water associated with that, the coastal beach. There is a dune area as well as a BVW in between Racing Beach and the house. Finally, a bank defined by the flood zone and the slopes leads up to the house. There's an existing house on site. There's an existing septic system tucked up into this corner. The proposal tonight is to this rectangular piece of the house only is proposed to have a second floor over the existing footprint. And to go along with that is a septic upgrade, which includes an increase in flow, the inclusion of a nitrogen reducing system. We did go in front of the Board of Health on Monday night. They did approve the project and made a determination that the nitro system will improve effluent flow into the ground from this system over the existing conditions. The actual proposal, that is what it consists of. Again, that addition and the new septic system. Once we submitted, we did receive some staff feedback, go through a couple of these, and we did receive additional staff notes yesterday, which we are still working on, but I'd like to just go through things, and I have one in particular I'd like to review with the commission. There's a number of shell areas that were installed, basically expanding some shell footprint, some clearing. We fully intend to restore those areas and satisfy the staff's comments. This plan will be even further restored. I think this green area will come fill up this entire crushed shelled area here with maybe just a 3-foot strip just to keep it off from growing into the driveway. But we intend to make that change, as well as this area. We'll have additional restoration based on some feedback comments we received yesterday. Last 2 items I would like to just discuss. One, I do believe this addition has been analyzed structurally to support the second floor addition. We do not have that in writing, so I'm looking to get that and get that submitted as part of the file for the project. And then lastly, if I could, I'm going to share a couple pictures. There was a comment about, stop sharing this and just quickly share a couple pictures. So this is a, not necessarily an aerial view, but a view from above. I believe it was noted as, it was in the staff report as a listing view. You'll see that in this house is or was partially built in the velocity zone back in 1983. I did a little historical research. It appeared to be from, as far as I could tell, from 1977 firm maps that had a velocity. It's listed as V10 elevation 14, which does correspond with the finished floor. I'm not sure design parameters back in the 80s, but the elevation 14 does kind of reflect the existing house being at elevation 14. And it was noted by staff that the house is supported on piles, or at least a portion of the house. Obviously, there's a driveway, and so I just wanted to have a quick. So this is the landward side of the house. You'll see it's not particularly on piles. It's at natural grade. But this is the view from that aerial. These are the windows that you see. You know, the picture was taken somewhere up here. This is the windows you could see. As far as I can tell, this is also in the picture, but then this area was what was open in that picture. So staff reported that it appeared that the velocity zone area under that was supported on piles was covered over with shingles. And so what we're doing is researching what type of construction this is. You can actually see the piles here sticking halfway out from those. It was work that was done before the current owner. We are interested in resolving this issue with staff and conservation. We I guess I just would like some feedback. We plan to research how this was, if these are designed as breakaway panels, or they're just designed as architectural features, and just how to proceed with that one comment, if the commission would expect it to be restored to what we believe it was when it was originally built, or at least from that one photo. I'll just go back one last time. I believe that white trim is this lower area, and then it was filled in. You can see the piles there. So just interested in what the commission might suggest be done to resolve that piece of kind of identified activity. That's a change that would not necessarily be have been permitted for the property. But again, it's the second floor addition over this roof line, and the septic system is the main component of the project. The house is not being physically expanded footprint, and resolving staff comments. And I've been talking to my client. They're interested in answering all the questions, following through with what they need to do to be able to have an approvable project. With that, I'll stop sharing and take any comments or questions. I do anticipate, I believe, of continuing, but be happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Mark. Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, when we first reviewed this project under an RDA, that's when we noticed all of the shell and some of the vegetation, either in the buffer of a dune or actual dune, have been removed. Those areas Mark had showed you on the plan, they're on either side of the driveway. He currently has them as crushed shell. We would like those restored to what it was, which was vegetated with shrubs on both sides of that driveway. So would like to see that. Are you getting rid of all the shell around the whole house, Mark? Yes, right?
Yes, yep.
Yeah, all the shell is going to be removed, so that's great. That's our biggest concern. Another concern I have, Mark, what are you doing with that coastal dune delineation? You took it off of GIS? You didn't ground truth it?
It was brought up by your staff that it was missing. I did take it off GIS, and the reason I was relatively comfortable of showing that was I do not believe it will extend above the coastal bank, which is what is creating the Falmouth buffer zones. So yes, we do intend to, sorry, that was one last thing. We do intend to field verify that and get that on the plan. But the reason for...
Yeah, I understand why you did it. I just, because I want to make sure that your increase in design flow is keeping that setback.
Okay.
That setback to that June. I mean, the whole big thing is you're increasing the design flow, and you're supposed to stay 100 feet away from all the resource areas. You can't. You're kind of in resource areas down there. That's a really tricky area down there. So
Okay.
that's why I kind of want to lock down that dune delineation. And then I think you knew from our first staff report and our first comments that we're going to want the crushed shell area by the driveways to be restored. It wasn't until we were looking at it yesterday that I was kind of looking at the pictures and Fallon was going over her staff report, and I noticed all the openings, and I'm like, what is that? I was looking at the pictures and you could see the piling, and I'm like, what is that? And then we started to look at the pictures, and we realized that it had been enclosed. We did go down to the building department, Mark. We did see what had happened, and apparently around 2011, 2012, 2013, there was a contractor that kept coming in for 200 square feet of reshingling, or 200 more 200 feet of reshingling, and more 200 feet of reshingling. So it got us to thinking that they were trying to stave a whole whatever 200 square foot the building, because it was in a V zone, and then was exceeding the work. He didn't get that work permitted. So you're not going to find any sort of breakaway panel design or anything like that. I think he just slapped it up there. So, I mean, you can try, but I don't know. I would find out how much of that area has been enclosed and get us a square footage on that, and maybe we can work with you on that. But without knowing that, yeah, that was all enclosed without us and without buildings knowledge either. So that'll have to be looked at. And I think that's all I have. The vegetation was the big one, replacing that. I'd like that dune delineation a little bit more locked down, I guess. And we got to look into how this, or at least what your square footage underneath that, so we can kind of maybe work with you on that. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Ms. Bergeron.
Just reading the rest of Fallon's comments, Mark, if you could just add the rinse station removal note to the plan. She didn't seem to find it. And then just to find that letter. That would be great. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Alyssa. I forgot about the rinse station one.
Commissioner comments, Ron.
And I'm all set. Thank you. No comments.
All right, Steve.
Thank you. I don't have any comments.
All right, Betsy.
Nor do I.
Courtney.
I'm going to break the code here. Yeah, I have an issue. I have an issue with the panels there. I appreciate that. That's a very exposed area, and you know, when the wind blows across Buzzards Bay, it just goes right through it. And so, you know, I can understand the logic in putting it, but we didn't permit it, and I think those need to be removed. Now, clearly, if they are removed, one issue may be insulation. They may have to look into using foam insulation on the underside of the house to seal it properly. But, you know, I'm not comfortable with those panels there. They need to go. That's my only comment. The rest of the project's fine.
All right. Mark, on the letter from your engineer, you said that he reviewed it and he's fine with the structure support. So obviously we need a letter to memorialize that. But what I'm asking for is to have him put language in there specifically that it's on piles, not a foundation. I mean, a foundation, piles do constitute a foundation, but I want it clear that it's on piles, not a concrete foundation.
Okay.
I imagine he's done an on-site visit.
Yep.
So that he's made that determination. But again, I'd like to see that language included, please.
Understood.
Kevin.
No questions, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Nothing in the public chat, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Mark, you have a request for us?
Yes, I'd like to request to continue to November 13th.
Bird, so move.
Driscoll second.
Can we fit it in that date, Jen?
I mean, the only ones we have continued to that date so far are the ones we continued tonight. So we only continued.
Continued 4.
We
Well,
continued.
This will be the 4th.
We continued 96 Waterside, Forester, and then the enforcement. And then if we have to, depending on scheduling, if I had to cancel the November 6th meeting, we only have one continued and one new notice on that day. So I think we're fine.
Okay.
The 13th will work, even if I have to rearrange the 6th around. We're gonna be good.
All right, so we have a motion and a second to continue this hearing until 11:13. Last call, questions or comments? We're voting on the continuance. Betsy,
Walter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Ron,
Driscoll, aye.
Steve?
And
It is unanimous. We have continued this until November 13. Thank you, Mr. Dibb.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Have a good night, Mark.
All right, the next one has been previously continued. It brings us to request to amend an existing order of conditions. Friends of Nobska Light, Inc., 233 Nobska Road, Falmouth, Mass. Request to amend the order of conditions for Mass DEP number 25-4897 to conduct additional grading within the front yard and install a drainage system. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Alyssa, this Raoul, is that why he's here?
Yes,
That's what I thought.
I believe so. It was a Cape and Islands request.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I didn't grab that paperwork before I
Yeah.
left. Hi, Raoul. I was wondering why you were here. I kind of figured it was this one. Am I promoting anybody else up tonight? No, just
Nope.
you? Okay.
Mr. Lizardi, you're up, sir.
Good evening. For the record, Raul Lizardi from Cape and Islands Engineering, representing the applicant for this project, the Friends of Nobska Lighthouse. This project is an amendment to an order of condition that was issued a year ago. There was a project that was reviewed by this commission for invasive plant management, the removal of invasive plants and restoration with native plantings. That was in October 19, 2023. What the contractor performing the work realized is that there's an area of the site for the removal of the invasives that is a depression, and it's collecting a lot of storm runoff water, and it's promoting the growth of vegetation. So if I could start by sharing my screen, I'll go along with these descriptions.
Yes, sir.
So I'm hopefully sharing my screen.
Yeah.
For those who are not familiar, which I think that will be a stretch of a statement, the Nobska Lighthouse, beautiful spot. The property is owned by the federal government. It has the lighthouse, and it has several buildings around the property. Last year, Environmental Landscape Solution submitted this plan for the removal of some invasive plants, generally around this area, and then restoration of native buffers in these locations. All of this work is happening in the buffer zone, mainly the buffer zones to the coastal bank. And those who have traveled along Nobska Road, which I presume is everybody, you can see that you will notice that this is a very steep bank. It ends almost at very close to the top of the road. There's a portion of land over here that is fairly flat. It's not a bank, but all of the work is happening either between the 40 to 50 and between the 50 to 100-foot buffer to that coastal bank. So we submitted this new plan for amending the order of condition. If you notice a big difference between the plan from last year, the plan did not depict the surface topography. When we surveyed the property and we located the depression that exists today, it is clearly defined that there's a portion of the front yard that is just holding a lot of water. And the contractor doing the removal of invasives noticed that the accumulation of water, it's promoting the growth of those invasives. If I could share some of the images from the Nobska Lighthouse website, this is what we're looking at. All of this vegetation, it's invasive. Today, the site was cleared But the vegetation, the invasives are sprouting back up. This is the depression that they're dealing with, and there's a lot of water that comes down. It is not really runoff water from the structures themselves. There's just a little bit of runoff from the lighthouse itself. Probably a third of the square footage of the lighthouse slopes in this direction, but most of the other surfaces are already controlled with site storm runoff systems. So we're not dealing with much of that, but what we are dealing is from a good section of the front yard that drains to this low spot. So the solution would be to remove all this vegetation that is invasive, it's already been done, but it's already growing back. So to minimize the ability for that invasive plant species to grow back, we're going to slowly grade this by filling and lessening the depression. We are going to keep a depression, but to avoid accumulation of water for prolonged periods of time, we're doing a yard drain in the form of a leaching pit. In this location, it's at the edge of the proposed restoration planting and the edge of the lawn. Most of the site is grass. But at that location, we still end up with a little depression, but it's about 10% of the size of what is there today. And with the subsurface leaching system, we think we're going to be able to manage or minimize the germination of these invasive plants. So that's what we're proposing here, is just amending the order condition from last year to allow for the grading of this depression and the installation of this drainage system. The proposed mitigation plantings, the native species is still the same list that was approved last year. So I will stop sharing for now and I'll open it for any questions.
Thanks, Raul. Jen.
I don't have any questions, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right. Ms. Bergeron.
No questions. Thank you.
Wow. All right. Commissioner comments and questions. Steve.
Well, I'm glad you started with me. I don't have any questions. Thank you. Keep up the good work.
Betsy.
No questions.
Courtney.
Are you using herbicides to control the invasives now that you've got them back?
I don't really know the details of what the management was approved last year, but whatever was approved last year, it will still be the same.
Okay.
This amendment does not change what was approved from last year for the management of the invasives.
Okay. No other questions.
All right. Kevin.
No questions, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right. Ron.
Oh, great project. The whole Knoxville light restoration is fantastic. But no questions on this project. Thank you.
I concur. Nice project. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Nothing in the public chat, Mr. Chair.
Make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Third, second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Last call. Questions or comments? All right. We're voting to close the hearing. Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney.
Third, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin.
O'Brien, aye.
Ron.
Driscoll, aye.
Steve.
Madam Mayor.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Raul.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Good night, Raul.
Good night, Rule.
All right. Next up, hearings under an enforcement order. Margaret Foffenoff, 30 Woodneck Road, Falmouth, Mass. Unpermitted construction of a deck, a patio, and a fence. Reconstruction of a driveway and associated clearing of vegetation and altering vegetation within a resource area buffer. Oh my. Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant has requested the property owner has requested a continuance until December 11th. They're prepared to file a notice of intent to address the issues by November 20th. You all received a letter from their attorney. So that's staff's fine with that. We'll work with I believe they have Merrill Engineering on as the engineer, so we'll be working with Merrill.
Well, that's a positive thing, so that's good. Courtney,
I just have a question. I drove by there today and the place is surrounded with a big fence and a huge gate. Does that mean we're gonna have to have difficulty getting access to this site? I'd
No,
hope to go down and
we'll
take a
make
look
sure
at
you
it.
have access to the site, Courtney.
Thank you.
Yeah, I had the same issue. There's two gates along the fence, but one of them has a secure lock on it, and the driveway gate, I have no idea. It must be a remote control to get in there.
Okay,
Yeah.
we'll make sure that when, we'll make note of that, we'll reach out to the engineer and make sure that when the board wants to visit the site, that you have access. Um, I know you all go at different times, so we'll make the property owner aware and let them know that the gate needs to be unlocked.
well, if
Right.
they file a notice, we kind of get permission by default, no?
Correct,
Yeah,
correct.
but
But we
they're
want to make
under an
sure you guys
enforcement
don't go
order.
there and then have the gate locked, so
Right,
that'll have
Right.
to be worked out.
yeah,
I'm just wanting to make you aware that that's an issue.
yeah.
No, yep.
All right, so they're asking for a continuance until December 11th.
Correct.
And if they're working on a notice with Merrill, then that's a good thing.
Yep.
All right, so I'm looking for a motion and a second to grant a continuance.
I'll move to continue the hearing until what was the date we settled on?
December 11th.
December 11th.
Fiscal second.
Thank you. All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this enforcement matter until December 11th. Last call, questions or comments? We're voting on the continuance. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, I.
Ron,
Fiscal eye.
Steve.
And
It is unanimous. We've granted a continuance until December 11. All right. Next up, continued hearings under enforcement order that have been previously continued. Brings us to vote. Orders of conditions. First up, Kevin and Mary Beth Duffy, trustees, 468 Davisville Road, Falmouth, Mass. And the quorum is all of us tonight. This is a flood zone only.
No, I think there might be in the buffer. I'm sorry.
All right.
Is it in the buffer?
I
I'm
don't
getting
know.
the projects blended together. Hang on, Mr. Chairman, I got the plan right here.
This is the undeveloped lot. So there's salt marsh, there's bank, there's
Oh yeah. I think it's out of the A buffer to the salt marsh. Yeah, so I mean, it's a house. I think the only thing we wanted removed for the plan, and I do believe he had done that, was to remove the vista window. I'd prefer to do the vista window once the house is constructed.
Yep.
They may change their mind about where they want that view to be, so we want to make sure that it's where the applicant would like it. And I think we're just going to put one in because we had difficulty physically accessing the site because it's so thick in there. Once that limit of work is in place, we want to visit the property before they start construction and have them stake it out and all that. So, but that limit of work has to go in first. Okay, and that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Anything anybody want to see in there?
We need to do anything about that domestic water well right off the edge of the property on next door?
That's in another property.
Right.
The only reason the note was on there was because the Board of Health requires 100-foot separation from a septic to a well, and that's irrelevant of if it's your septic and somebody else's well or vice versa. So that's why that note was on there. It's kind of confusing because it implies they have a well, but they don't.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to issue an order of conditions as discussed.
Bird second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to issue an order of conditions. Anything else? All right, we're voting to issue an order of conditions. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Ron,
Driscoll, aye.
Steve.
And,
It is unanimous. We have issued an order of conditions. Next up, Sarah Chirano Flores, Nutter, McLennan and Fish, LLP, 24 Willis Lane, Falmouth, Mass. Jen,
This was the dock.
I'm sorry, can I interrupt you? Ron's not on this quorum. Sorry about that. Now, Jen.
That's okay. It's where I lost my thought. This is the dock project. They wanted to kind of reconfigure the dock. It isn't a V zone, so there is can't really expand a dock in the V zone. They've kept it the same square footage, but just reconfigured it. They have lengthened it to get it into deeper water, which they gave up doing the shellfish survey because they started and they were tripping that number. They far exceeded the threshold of shellfish. I did check with Chuck, Shellfish Constable. It has never been seeded. It is a natural seed set. It is a natural set of cohogs over there in shellfish. So it's kind of important to get that deeper water separation from those boats. They do not have a limit on the number of boats they can have on the dock now, so they do have a larger center console and a smaller, it looks like a rigid hull inflatable. This way, both boats will be in deeper water, greater separation to that shellfish set. And again, it's keeping that same square footage in the V zone, which you have allowed in the past, as long as we kept it that same square footage.
And they took the
Nope,
wave
and-
break out of this project.
The wave break is off of this project and part of the other project.
Okay. All right. Anything else?
That's it, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Standard stuff. Anything anybody want to see in there?
no,
I'll make a motion to issue an order of conditions as discussed.
Bird second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to issue an order of conditions. Last call, questions or comments? All right, we're voting to issue an order of conditions. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Ron,
Nope.
Steve.
Out.
and
All right, it is unanimous. With this quorum, we have issued an order of conditions. Thank you. All right, last one. Who wants it?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Bill.
Gladfelter, aye.
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye.
O'Brien, aye.
Driscoll, aye.
And aye.
It is unanimous. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.